Update 84. Got my new room settled, as you can see. You know, if you really want something to happen, you'll make it happen. And if you don't want something to happen, you'll make excuses. And I just refuse to make any excuses as to why I haven't posted. Recently I watched Joseph Campbell's mini-series on the power of myth. And there were a lot of notable things that I learned about story writing from this, because he studies ancient myths, stories, rituals, all these kinds of things that have a huge amount of symbology. And so some of the things that he talks about that really stuck out to me were things like, quote, "I don't believe in being interested in subjects because I'm told they're important or interesting. I believe in being caught by it somehow." And that ties straight into show, don't tell. Which is why I try to never say that any of my characters are crazy or funny or tough. I think that's an important, just like, rule of thumb to writing in general. Letting the audience draw their own conclusion is what's fun about reading. He also says, "The best things cannot be told. The second best things are misunderstood. And the third best are what we talk about." Tying into that, he says, where'd it go? "Beyond names and words, no tongue has spoiled it, no word has reached it." He was talking about feelings. And I think that's a brilliant way of putting it. The guy that was interviewing him, a man by the name of Bill Moyers, was talking to him about love. And in part of the interview he said, "You're speaking of romantic love?" And Joseph Campbell answers, "Yes. It is the seizure that comes in recognizing, as it were, your soul's counterpart in the other person." And then he brings up the stories of Sir Tristan from King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Someone warned him, "You have drank your death," indicating to the love potion he and the girl he was with had just drank. And he said, "If by death you mean this agony of love, then I have drank my life. The punishment I accept." I also think that's brilliant, and I really liked it. I didn't realize nirvana was a real word. I thought it was just a band. Nirvana is the psychological state where you are without desire or fear. It makes your life harmonious, well-centered, and affirmative of life. So I also found that very interesting and wrote it down. And then I had a realization while watching this. We don't invent facts, save when we are confused or lying. That's a famous Jared Grand quote right there. Good old J. McGrand hitting you with some wisdom. I've shuffled around this room quite a bit. I also haven't cut my hair in about 3 months. More like 4. You know what?
It's time for a story, it's time for a story. A very special story, especially for you.
The Cursed Gun, Part 1. The last gunshot echoed over the rocks, leaving Miguel's ears ringing. Only 9 shots had been fired, and the last one had found its mark. Miguel snapped his revolver open and let the empty brass fall to the ground, 3 more rounds already in his hand. The tip of the gun let off a tiny wisp of smoke as he calmly placed the bullets into the revolving chambers. The huffing and puffing of his dying opponent grew clearer as the ringing left his ears. Miguel peered over the rock and saw the man he had shot. He was wincing deeply and holding his stomach. Miguel saw no gun in his hand and looked around. He spotted the white-handled 5-shot Smith & Wesson several feet away from the man. With his own gun trained on the wounded bandit, Miguel climbed over the rock and picked up the white-handled gun. It also was still smoking and had 2 more bullets left in it. He looked down at the wounded man who kept his gaze forward. "I'd leave that gun if I were you," the man said. Miguel placed it in his belt anyway. "Gun's got a..." The man grunted and pulled in a short but sharp breath. "Got a curse on it." Curse? Miguel did happen to be superstitious. "Some people get shoulder angels. Some people get a demon. That gun is a demon if I ever saw one." Miguel turned to leave. "Wait." Miguel stopped and turned. "Don't leave me like this, man. I could be alive for hours. This is no way to die." Miguel lifted his own revolver at the dying man and pulled the trigger. His ears rang for the next several minutes as he searched the campsite. The man's horse must have been used to gunfire. It stayed quietly where it was, gently tied to a low-hanging branch. Miguel rifled through the saddle and pulled out a string of women's handkerchiefs, which he tossed to the ground, a small bag of money, which he pocketed, a large bag of rice. He left that but planned on using it. Nothing on this side of the saddle. He walked around to the front of the horse, patting its neck. Patting its neck and clicking his tongue as he went. This side of the saddle had 3 objects: a machete in a leather sheath, the largest tinderbox Miguel had ever seen, and a bag containing a black box with golden trim and a keyhole shaped like a square. He grabbed the box and put it on his own horse, leading the other behind him as he left. His ears stopped ringing. Miguel entered the racetrack several hours later. Few people were entering since the event was on its 5th heat already. Miguel's horses were tied near the front as he made it to the entrance, the black and gold box inside the shoulder bag that ruffled against his left hip. His right hand browsed gently over the grip of his 6-shot at his other hip. The new white-handled 5-shot was in his shoulder holster under his right arm. He was stopped at the box seat by a smaller man in a bow tie. "Can I help you find a seat, sir?" The man was bald and several inches shorter, but entirely professional. "Sitting with him," Miguel said, pointing to a mustached man with a half-smoked cigar in his fingers. There were 4 men with him, all around a little table and all nursing bottled drinks, staring at the grizzled newcomer like a polite but biased jury. Miguel remembered there were a few traces of splattered blood on his poncho. He hoped they were overlooked. "Mr. Cole, that's Miguel. Let him in." "You were expecting him?" bald Mr. Cole asked. The mustachioed man said, Yes, Miguel's with me." Mr. Cole forced a smile and let Miguel into the box. Miguel's eyes never left the mustachioed man. Once Mr. Cole was out of earshot, Mustache said, "Thank you, Miguel. I'll speak with you after the races." Miguel patted the bag. "I have what you asked for. I need to be paid now." He noticed the rest of the men were looking at Mustache. "You'll be paid later. For now, why not just sit and enjoy a race?" The question was posed as if Miguel were to say no. "Leroy, what's all this about?" one of the men asked. Mustache smiled at him. "It's not that I take business home with me. Business tends to follow me around." A few chuckles from the other men. Miguel gently reached under his jacket and pulled out the gun that the man had said was cursed. He performed this action so slowly and gracefully that no man in the party felt threatened until the sound of its clunk onto the table stirred them. The barrel was pointed diagonally across the table away from Miguel. "I need that money." Hold it, why? Don't move, Miguel spat, putting his hand on his second weapon. Nobody moved. You just asked me why I need money? Doesn't everyone owe money these days? I don't murder for sport. I murder because I'm desperate. It's a bad idea to test a desperate, well-armed man. Nobody spoke for a second. 2, 3, 4, 5. What's your name? A man with a gray vest and a smart gold tie asked. Miguel. Miguel, where'd you find that gun? He gestured with his eyes at the gun on the table. Miguel's superstition flared and he thought back to the man's dying words. Gun's got a curse on it. Then he answered with, I bought it. I'm willing to bet it cost several men's lives. Just one. The men stared on at Miguel, the pupils of their eyes dilated and tense. I'll pay you later. Right now we're enjoying ourselves. Now put that gun away. What's in the bag, Miguel? Gold Tie asked. This is business between us, Leroy interjected. Miguel pulled the box out and laid it on the table in front of the gun. Then Miguel watched all the men looking bewildered at the box to glaring at Leroy. Gold Tie was the first to speak, and he spoke to Leroy. That box. Well, you bought me a seat at a fixed event. You robbed me? Like a bowstring, the air seemed to be pulled tight, waiting for something to release. Miguel noticed the other four moving aside their jackets. The mustache looked up at Miguel with a smile and a voice as gentle as a horse tamer's. I'll double the pay if you kill these four. Miguel drew his six-shot, shooting the man who had his hand on his gun first. Bang! Surprised screams rose instantly from the crowd and died away like a wave crashing on a beach. Miguel's ears were ringing again. Leroy covered his ears and ducked as the other three grabbed for their guns. Miguel used his freed left hand to grab the white-handled gun and fired. More shocked screams at the motion. Miguel shot the second man, the third with the new gun, then the fourth. People were fleeing the stands. Ladies with their large dresses, stadium glasses, and pinned hair. Then Miguel looked at Leroy, who was holding his own revolver. Miguel and Leroy, in the same instant, pointed their guns at each other. What's this box? Miguel asked in a muffled tone. Leroy's eyes were wide with shock. Miguel guessed he hadn't heard any of what he had just said. Miguel watched Leroy say, Shouldn't have brought that box here. Should have waited. Miguel slowly pointed the white-handled gun at the box. Mustache looked down at the gun and the box. Miguel shot Leroy in the shoulder and moved his own head out of the way as Leroy reflexively pulled his trigger, screaming in pain. More screams from the stumbling, stampeding crowd. Miguel felt a small tap of metal at his head and heard a muffled voice say something. He turned slowly and saw Mr. Cole again, holding a Colt .45 at Miguel's face. Miguel's expression stayed complacent, and he kept both guns in his hands. He saw Mr. Cole mouth, Drop the guns. Drop the guns. Miguel looked up the stairs and saw a cluster of people heading down. Mr. Cole was standing on the same staircase, so Miguel took one step toward him, and Mr. Cole retreated into the traffic and was toppled down the staircase. As he fell, Miguel raised the white-handled gun and fired into him. Another crashing wave of screams from the crowd. The gun smoked. Amid the movement, liquid and tumbling, an explosion, chaotic and free from order. From somewhere, Miguel heard laughter. Deep, delighted laughter. His ears stopped ringing and the laughter was gone. Miguel holstered the guns, picked up the box, and mixed into the crowd. The horses, though accustomed to the gunfire, were whinnying at their post. Miguel jogged up and patted them to calm them, untied them, hopped on. He saw two men with rifles in the stands aiming at him but holding their fire. Miguel guessed they held back because there were too many bystanders. He didn't wait around to see if that was the reason. He kicked his horses into a gallop. Now Leroy's certainly not going to pay me. This box belonged to the men he was sitting with. Did this box belong to the men he was sitting with? Miguel's hand still held the white-handled gun. Of all the bad luck.
So,
let's see. Pancakes. I haven't touched the pancake meter in months. But if I had 3 pancakes 6 times every week, and I don't know, 3 to 4 months, 4 weeks, you got 16 weeks times 6. That's 60 and 36, 96? 96 pancakes. So 1, 2. 91, 92, 90. Oh my gosh, we were 3 pancakes off, but I did hit the top of the meter. Did I say I was going to do something at the end of the top of the meter? If I did, comment it and I'll add it into the next video. I totally forgot about that. We do have 92 subscribers now, so I'm just gonna... Wait, wrong pen. What am I doing? 92. We're gonna say it's right about here. Boom. It is update 84. 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84. Probably like 20,000 words over the past few, like 4 months. So we got... Well, I've officially written over 200 pages in the time that I've been YouTubing. And guess what? Movie recommendation still hasn't changed.